is known in the Old Testament, or not even in the Old Testament. He's Ham to us in the Testament we have. But in secular mythology, he is Kronus, okay? He is Moloch. He has a lot of names. He is Rephras. He is the Rephaz, okay? The Rephaz are the shades. It's another root word for the Nephilim, okay? And he is Belus, okay? So now Ham, who had a Canaanite mother, all right? So you just got to understand that. Keep that in your mind, uppermost in your mind. He had 3 sons, Mitzrayim, Canaan, and Cush, okay? Now they all kind of followed their father's lead. Mitzrayim, to a large extent, went and founded Egypt. Canaan came and he founded a lot of the Phoenician area. He also was in the Promised Land. That's why they call it Canaan today, okay? It's got one of its biblical names, Canaan. And you have Cush, who went down a lot into Ethiopia. But let me tell you this. So let's get back to this. So Shem comes up. See, he's not a normal person. These people, let me say this. Let me go to this information. We are dealing at the time of chaos still. As I told you in a couple other teachings. This is Jewish. This is a time of chaos still. We're dealing with people who are gods and demigods and titans, okay? This is truth, okay? And if you really look at the archaeology close, if you really even study out, they're finding, it's being unearthed, the elongated skulls of these people. You see, in a lot of the Egyptian hieroglyphics, the headdresses where the head goes up like this, they have a headdress on, but these skulls are elongated. These are showing up a lot of these hybrid races that were going on again. But and Canaan really took off with this again. But I want to get to some of the ages of these people. So Noah was 950 when he died. He lived 350 years after the flood. I mean, I don't know how, and the historians attest to this, okay? So we just have to wrap our mind around this. Now, Selah, who is a 3rd generation Shemite, after Shem, and I think his son Axelrod, and then Selah. Selah died when he was 433 years old, okay? And this was 100 years after Jacob's entry into Egypt. See, a lot of these people would understand, when you're living, okay, let me get, according to the text, Nimrod died at the age of 609. So 600 years. These people are all contemporaries. This is what I'm saying. They know each other's exploits. They're perfectly aware of what each other's doing. They're constantly, at war, so to speak, with each other and the kingdoms and the territories. And then Meshach, okay, because in the Bible I think it's, I'm not saying Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, but is a son of Japheth, who died in France at 723. 723. I mean, if you're not considered like a demigod, it's living 700 years, okay? Don't think these people in 700 years couldn't repopulate the earth again. Shem was 600 when he died. Ham was 536 years. Now, that's just a couple of snippets from there. Now, okay, so we're going to get back to, so one of the greatest, because see, once you understand that, okay, so Ham is Kronus. His father, Noah, was known in the ancient world, according to different cultures, just a couple of his names. He was Ouranus, okay? And had 3 sons, Noah, Neros, according to the Romans. He is Janus of the Romans. He is Deculon, is another name for him given in Sisithrus is another name given to him. And in Epic of Gilgamesh, he is Utipastan, something like that, okay? All saying this is the historical Noah. Historical meaning he really was a guy. He was. Now, when you get into the mythology, and this is the point where I can't get to yet, and he talks about he was the father of the sky. See, there's reasons why they do these things, because the ancients truly understood the different, see, I don't want to say dimensions, the different origins, dimensions of the different species out there, okay? So when, and this is really deep, and what if I did, that Noah was a sky god, but what that meant, okay? And when we're using God, we're using the word G, small g, okay? Don't get your panties in a, okay, we're using a small g. These are people, these are, and a demigod, what a demigod is, demi, half, okay? All right, so you have, so then you have, I went through some of these things in Mitzrayim, his son, because, many people in the Bible, it refers to Egypt as Mitzrayim, and that's Osiris, and those have a whole story to them, that people group. Then you have Canaan. Now, Canaan and Nimrod is where we have to go. But there is the story. This is what I want to try to unpack in the last. And this is important for people to understand. You do not have to check your brains at the door to say you're a Christian. You just have to recover true history. And you have to understand the war that you're in. And you have to be able to understand these deeper mysteries, these truths that are there. You have to grow up. Now, Uranus and Gaia means earth, his wife, okay, and so this Noah had 3 wives. 2 of them he had before the flood, and one of them was the father of Japheth, and Shem had the same father and mother. Ham had a different mother, okay? And it was this mother that Noah took on the ark with him. All these other boys had wives. So, and I said, I can't even get into the women, and it's there. You can find out this genealogy. Okay, the whole story of Ham going into the tent of his father and uncovering his father's nakedness. And then you get Shem and Japheth come in and they cover his father's naked with a blanket, and it was all because Noah was in the tent and he was drunk because he had planted a vineyard and he got drunk. I'm telling you what, people, that is so, I mean, that's not even first grade. That 90% of what I just said is just like totally made up. I mean, it is so far from the truth that God is needing to reveal here, okay? So let's unpack that. Because the story is, in mythology, that Kronus, who is Ham, castrated his father, Ouranus. Now, why in the world? What could that possibly be saying? And if you think I'm kidding, here it is in the Zohar, which I'm telling you is where all the secrets are kept. And I'm on page, and this is Daniel Matt's version, I'm on page 435. 434 and 435 in the footnotes. Ham, the father of Canaan, aroused Ham, Noah's second son, who saw his father's nakedness. We're going to get to that. But in the note of 706, he castrated him. According to Rob, one of the great sages, Ham castrated his father, thereby eliminating the covenantal sign of circumcision. Okay, now, this is one of the deeper things that we have to understand what circumcision was about. Circumcision was an outward sign, okay, of sexual purity. But we're not just talking about, I know it has a side of adultery and, staying faithful in your marriage, but the larger picture of sexual purity goes back to the understanding, back to the garden, of staying sexually pure within your species, procreating only with your kind. And I'm not talking about race in the sense of color. Like I said before, we're talking about species. And if you think I'm crazy, I mean, they're releasing movies now targeted to young girls, this whole idea of hybridization, having sex with an angel. I mean, it's all coming out again in the popular culture, okay? Trying to get people ready for this paradigm shift, okay? That is just going to come like a flood. But anyways, this is in eliminating the covenantal sign as at first, which was following Adam's sin. So in following Adam's sin means the same sin that Adam did, okay, which was with allowing this hybridization to happen. Now, I can really, there's tons of people who are really unpacking this, and I will say, for those who really want to, one of my favorites and a true man of God, a great sage, is Zen Garcia. Has a whole YouTube channel, has some of the deepest understandings out there on all this subject matter. Now, why would he do this? See what was going on. Now, there's two parts to this story that you have to understand. Because it's always been, if you are the odd man out, or if you are the lower man on the totem pole, in where you have to get an advantage somehow. Okay, so this would be, why are these Canaanites constantly looking to hybridization as an advantage? Okay, over. Now, before I go there, let me just explain to you who the Titans and the Olympians are. The Titans would be considered this whole first generation after the flood. Noah's boys are considered, and I had some quotes here. Oh, I was going to read this too from Belarus, who is a famous historian, but I can't go into it. But basically saying, well, here the quote is, but this is from Belarus, a famous historian. He said that there arose a war. Let's see if I can get this in. I had it written down too, so I could. Okay, here's from a Chaldean fragment, two places. After the flood, Titan and Prometheus lived. Okay, after the flood, Titan and Prometheus lived. Titan undertook a war against Kronus. Okay, so let's unpack that. Those are mythological names. Titan is originally a name for Shem. Okay, he's the first great Titan, and he stayed a Titan. But I will tell you something. It does refer to all these Adamite sons of Noah. So Japheth is a Titan, and Ham is a Titan. The first generation, because they talk about the Titans and the Olympians, there's kind of a generational. These guys were Titans. They are living 600-700 years. They are way bigger, better, badder. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, the megalithic structures that they built are totally with us today. They're just discovering all over the place more and more archaeological things to prove this race. I mean, some of it is, and I love my friend, people on YouTube that are putting this stuff up. Some guy, really think about it. If you go to Petra, which I've been to, and why don't we think of this? The doorways of some of these places. Who needs a doorway that big where the man is this big? Okay, like down here, the man is this big and the doorway's this big. Who needs it unless you're a giant, really? Okay, these people were big and they're finding the bones. Let's just believe history for a moment, okay? Okay, so anyways, that's there. The Belaruses wrote the same thing, that afterwards war arose between Kronus and Titan, which is saying between Ham and Shem. Okay, so what was this about? Because it's in the book of, we have to talk a little bit about Nimrod. Oh, I'm not going to get through this. I'm already looking at my time. Let's see if I can really do this. Okay, part of this thing is what Nimrod did, okay? Because the story goes, and I believe this now, that Shem killed Ham. Ham just, in just utter rebellion against God. When they came off the boat, Noah, here he is, he's a king of the earth. He has the mantle of God on him to go forth and repopulate the Adamic race on the planet. Now, I can't get into all the pre-Adamic people. See, this is there, okay? And Ham is he is a half Adamic, okay? But he rebelled. He went south. He decided that he was going to go back to the pre-flood God's lifestyles, knowledge, understanding to get an advantage, okay? Because Noah came out, they boys for about 200 years, they did live peacefully. And Noah was shown in a dream and a prophecy that one of his sons was going to rise against him. He kind of had this, that they weren't going to stay living in covenantal relationship with the others under the Noahide laws and repopulating the earth. And believe me, these people, oh my gosh, they went all over the world. I want to say one more thing. For people who are interested in the true history, I found this website called Creation Conversations. I think if you just Google creation conversations, hopefully this site will come up. And it is just this unbelievable history. I mean, if you're living 700 years, some of the stories that is happening is these people, and they're having, sons and daughters by this wife, and they're just all over the place. But Noah, he had more sons. He had more children. Because when it says, right out of Genesis, it says, and Noah and his sons were told to be fruitful and multiply again and repopulate the earth. Noah was told it too. Who says Noah was too old? Okay, Noah. This is again another whole level in the mythology. That's why that when you put this, who the children of Ouranus were. Okay, after the flood, that's another whole piece of the puzzle. Okay, but if you read this creation's, what did I say? Conversation, and it starts listing. This is where you get into the Greeks. This is some of the history that we've lost, that other generations knew and understood. Okay? So the story in the final analysis, and it took hundreds of years, this war between, two things were going on. Ham in utter rebellion. Eventually, Shem just killed him. Shem had to take him down because they were destroying the whole earth. Japheth is sort of the middle son. He's just so he's in the middle. Sometimes he's on the side of the Hamites. Sometimes he's on the side of Shem. He's sort of, he's very earthy, whatever advantages there is for him, okay? But Ham, to a large extent, these sons, and they started up again, these cultures, Egypt and Babylon, and the Phoenicians, the Canaanite worship, again, back to child sacrifice, back to, see, the sexual, you have to understand how this gets into the hybridization, this whole idea of temple prostitution, what's going on. These things are so deep. But you get into, fire, burning people alive, what this stuff resembles, but into cannibalism, into drugs, into murder, into all these different things that actually after the flood, after Babel, get boiled down into sequences because they really did have to go underground. Shem, the story is, and it's in the mythology, but it's really a story that Shem just finally overtook him, cut him up into 12 pieces, and sent the 12 pieces all over the world because to all the temples of Baal and say, look, this is it. You guys better just reform, or this is your destiny. You just got to knock it off. Which became, oh my gosh, I can't even get into how it got twisted. But this is where, again, a lot of people think that Esau killed Nimrod, but he didn't. Oh my gosh, I'm getting a little confused on this. That's a whole separate issue, Nimrod's demise. But we're talking about, see, there is a certain amount, oh my gosh, even now my brain is, I'm getting a little, okay. Because Esau, I think, was in the big hunt party. Esau was a grandson of Isaac through Ishmael. See, these people all knew each other, especially in their Shemitic lines. And so if you're going to go after a big hunter, a big guy, a king of the earth, you're going to take, your best. And this is part explains, I can't get into this part. When Esau comes back from the hunt and he's just so famished, he didn't just go, out to get a little deer for his dad. This was one of the most epic battles probably that ever happened, especially in his young life. And he was just absolutely wiped, befuddled, his whole mind, his whole worldview, everything that had just happened in this thing. You could probably say he had a what do they call that today? Post-traumatic, whatever it is, okay? DSD, whatever it is. Okay, but back to Nimrod, see, because I got to finish with this, but you have to understand the characters of Ham and Shem and Japheth repopulating the whole world, people. The Tower of Babel with Nimrod. Okay, let's get into this. Now, what Nimrod did, and even in the Epic of Gilgamesh, see, if you read it carefully, he was 2/3 human. This is in the Epic of Gilgamesh. And 1/3 angel by his own, or this is what made him a demigod. This is what made him the final. When all things settle down, and this is the war between the Titans and the Olympians now. See, this is it. Nimrod, and this is the whole point with the garments, when he took on, and why Ham, and they're all in this together. if he did castrate his father, I think it's even deeper than that. I don't think, because when Noah was in and covered the nakedness of was in the tent, see, this is the thing. It has nothing to do with wine. Wine is a deeper level understanding. You plant a vineyard in the earth. This has to do with, he was in the tent of his wife. This is a really cleaned up, this is a way of talking about conjugal relationships. He was beginning to produce the next generation of Titans, okay? Because here's Noah and he is going to produce, okay, that was not going to sit well with him because he was already, when he did this, and I think it has to do with genetics as we understand today, and gene splicing, you could put it, however he did it, because if you read some of the mythology, the blood dripped and he took it, he somehow was able to get, either he slept with his father's mother, who was a Canaanite, to produce children, to get that gene back in total circulation, a Canaanite and a Canaanite. So you understand, this is all these people, oh my gosh. But when you get to Nimrod, he literally had the gene. He actually was able to become an X-Man, okay? And I ended last week at telling you, this is not far-fetched. They're making a super soldier. Nimrod was able to become the king of the whole earth again, but not by just natural means. The guy hybridized himself to the point where he had advantages. He had above natural, again, abilities. Okay, because you understand when Adam fell and with boots on the ground, people are at a little bit of a disadvantage to some of these others. You know, the angels that can come and go at will don't seem to have much more abilities. Okay. So when you're 2/3 man and 1/3 angel, but let me just read you this if you don't believe me. This is from the book of Jasher. Now Jasher is the history that was kept, again, the esoteric knowledge and history by the Jews, and it's part of this process of coming out. Everything is coming out into the open now. Everything is being restored. Now this is it. All nations and tongues heard of his fame, Nimrod. And they gathered themselves to him, and they bowed down to the earth, and they brought him offerings, and he became their Lord and King. If you sacrifice to a god, this is the same way of saying he became their God, their King. He was a supernatural, and they were paying him homage. Now, instead of the Most High God, okay, and they dwelt with him in the city of Shinar. And Nimrod reigned in the earth over all the sons of Noah, and they were all under his power and counsel. This is the first Olympian generation now, okay? So the Titans were in a war, the first generation, against now this whole thing of Nimrod rising up, becoming an Olympian, the next generation who had even greater powers and able to subdue the whole earth at that time. And if you don't think that's true, Terah, who is the father of Abraham, who is a total Shemite, right? As the story goes, and you'll find in Jasher, and it says, I think it says it in your Bible, Terah was like the general. He was like right under Nimrod. He was like his right-hand man, his general of his armies, okay? So you talk about a seduction of the whole earth again. Here is Nimrod, here is Terah, who is the father of Abraham. See, we have to understand how just crazy and mixed and mingled this whole thing is. So when it says that Nimrod reigned in the earth over all the sons of Noah, this is the war of the Titans and the Olympians, okay? And the Olympians ended up winning for a season. But see, this is what's so interesting. It didn't really. This is the Greeks. And it's always history is written by the victor. So if you're of the Canaanite, if you're Luciferian, if you're of this quote-unquote first man, I mean, they have so many ways they communicate with each other. And all the earth was of one tongue and words of union, but Nimrod did not go in the ways of the Lord, and he was more wicked than all the men that were before him from the days of the flood until those days. So he totally blew past all of the Noahide laws, all the boundaries, and he made gods of wood and stone, and he bowed down to them, and that's all a very deep, encrouched mystery. And his son, and Mardon, who I think became Marduk, was more wicked than his father. So this is the story. This is what happened. But then again, you have the Tower of Babel, where Nimrod, in his new now demigodness, now that he's back in league with all the fallen entities, and they're on his side, and he again starts to bring a war against God. The Tower of Babel, they decide that they're going to ascend to the heavens and literally going to take on the gods again. No, okay? But and this is where you can ferret this stuff out. Oh my gosh, I'm just a little girl. I can't believe that nobody taught me this stuff. It's just mind-boggling. But we have to understand, because we're in a war, we're coming to the end of the age. The kings of the earth are going to take a stand one more time at the Battle of Armageddon. When the Lord comes, again, they think that they're going to be able to take him on. It's a lie, people. If you're deceived by this, if you're in the... listen, somehow they've hoodwinked you into thinking that it's a possibility. It's not, and it's not. So on that note, I am going to come back next time, and I'm going to continue to unearth some of the deeper, because we have to get back into why this whole story of, Ham exposing the nakedness of his father, what that means, what the deeper understanding, which is very couched in a lot of these, in this parabolic language. So anyways, I hope that made some sense. I just have to tell you, you just need to submit yourself to God and call upon his mercy. He is absolutely merciful. If you have been involved in any kind of dark arts, because it says that no one of witchcraft, sorcery, occultic arts, a murderer, a liar, even a coward, will enter into the kingdom of heaven. It is possible to repent. This is the day of salvation. It is possible to get washed clean by the blood of the Lamb and to inherit an eternal inheritance. So on that note, I say God bless and shalom.